Hey guys, what's going on? I had to stop the press because I actually found an article on the internet I actually agree with. That's so rare that that happens that I had to let everyone know. And just before people say anything, this is from the National Review, so it's a right-wing source. Like, oh, of course you agree with right-wing sources. No, actually I don't, because, excuse me, at the very top of the article, like I'll leave a link for the article as always. At the very top, it shows other articles that you can click on. And one of it is, the U.S. must remain in Africa's fight against Boko Haram, which I completely disagree with. No, we should not be fighting other people's wars. We shouldn't have troops anywhere internationally. We should bring them all home. This is just neocon, saber-rattling, war, fear-mongering, support for war. So no, so I don't agree with everything on this website. So let's go. So what did we find that I agree with? How the government creates wealth inequality. But AOC, Rashida Tlaib, all those other retards that are in Congress further ruining our lives, said that wealth inequality is caused by greed, it's caused by capitalism, it's caused by greedy billionaires who take advantage of workers. So that's why we must implement socialist programs to combat this bad capitalism that has made people's lives so much easier, and all these goods that we never could afford, and makes people's quality of life good. But that's beside the point. What we need is socialism to combat wealth inequality made by wealthy billionaires, greedy billionaires, evil billionaires. So how does the government cause wealth inequality? Well, let's take a look. Of course, it shows a picture of Bernie Sanders. Bernie Sanders, who constantly rails about wealth inequality and rails against billionaires. But guess what? He's one of those evil billionaires. He's one of those evil rich people he constantly rails about. He owns 3 houses. He makes millions of dollars. He's the old, evil, rich, white man that he constantly complains about. But that's beside the point. Politicians complain loudly about this problem, but their own policies are generating it. Wow. Holy shit. That's never happened before. Politicians complain loudly about a problem, and then they create policies that make that problem, and then they complain about it more, and then they're like, how does this happen? I don't understand. Fucking retards. There are economic storm clouds on the horizon, but for now, wages are rising, jobs are plentiful, and poverty is falling. All this is true. There are rumors of a recession, but then again, every couple of months there's rumors of a recession. You can find rumors of a recession on the internet every week from a random source if you feel like it. There's no point in getting worried about it because you're constantly going to worry about something you have no control over. So I don't think a recession is coming, but everything else in the sentence is true. Democrats running for president need an economic line of attack, so the solution has been to focus on wealth equality, because they can't complain about wages because wages are going up. They can't complain about unemployment because unemployment is like 3.7%, the lowest in decades. They can't complain about poverty either because poverty is falling. So what are they going to shift their focus to? Wealth inequality, as if people making lots of money based on the goods and services they provide is a bad thing. That's beside the point. Senator Bernie Sanders claims there's been a massive transfer of wealth from the middle class to the top 1%. Senator Elizabeth Warren lambasts America's extreme concentration of wealth. Even the establishment, Joe Biden, laments this wealth gap that exists in the United States of America is so profound now. Ironic that every single one of these people complaining about the extreme rich, the 1%, they're all part of that. But wow, that's just complete coincidence. I'm sure it's a complete fucking coincidence. But they're talking about it all wrong. Sanders says a massive transfer of wealth from the middle class to the top 1%. The top 1% earning a fuckload of money is not transferring wealth from the middle class. They're earning that based on the goods and services they provide, mostly to the middle class. There's no top 1% that makes money by just stealing money from the middle class, just going in and robbing their banks and robbing their houses. Oh, but that's what the government does. That's what the government does. The government is extremely rich, quote unquote, extremely rich. They have a lot of money just to waste by stealing money from other people. This is complete and utter fucking projection. This is a projection of government officials complaining about the super rich 1%, which they were part of, and they're complaining about stealing wealth from the middle class when they themselves do it. I mean, it's just amazing. Amazing. Wealth inequality has risen in recent years, but by far less than Democrats and many media articles imply. The scarier claims about inequality usually stem from the flawed data created by French economist Thomas Piketty, I don't know how to pronounce French names, and his colleagues. More careful studies by other economists and the Federal Reserve Board reveal surprisingly modest change in wealth inequality given the huge revolution in globalization technology has occurred. Are increases in wealth inequality the awful thing that Democrats claim? It depends on what causes them. Much of the recent modest rise in wealth inequality stems from innovations in our economy that is pulling everyone up. Brian Acton and Jan Koum, for example, built huge multi-billion-dollar fortunes by creating WhatsApp, which provides free phone services for 1.5 billion users globally. This is what I'm talking about. These super rich people did not get their huge amounts of wealth from stealing money from other people. No, they create goods and services that are wildly popular, wildly useful, and help people so much. Free phone services for 1.5 billion people. That is a huge chunk of the world's population. If you did a pie chart, well, we're at 8 million, I think. I don't even know where we're at now. It rises so fast. A huge chunk of that pie chart would be people who benefit from this app. Poor people in third world countries who don't have access to cell phones, or if they do have cell phones, there's no signal because they're so backwards. And, there's no towers or anything like that. People creating huge amounts of wealth by making very useful goods and services is not a bad thing. So are increases in wealth inequality the awful thing that Democrats claim? Absolutely not. No, there's nothing wrong with people making a lot of money, creating goods and services that people love, that people like a lot, that are useful, that help them in their lives, that increase their quality of living, that lessens the burdens on them, etc., etc. No, absolutely nothing wrong with it. But Democrats act like it's some horrible fucking thing. That these super rich people, they're getting rich at the expense of the lower class. No, they're actually not. They're actually benefiting the lower class. Because before, these lower class, these 1.5 billion users didn't have access to phone service, and now they do. Phones are incredibly useful. Lots of phones can go to the internet now, so that's providing internet for millions and millions, if not a billion plus people. Free internet, free phone service. And that's just the one example they made. We're not talking about all these other things, all the goods and services that Amazon provides or Facebook provides. People getting in contact with people across the globe. They can video chat and stuff like that. Like, these are all incredibly useful things. I mean, I can go on and on for like 20 minutes about all the things in my house that are created by super rich people. Everything that's been around, like refrigerators and vacuums, to Chromecast and flat screen TVs. Like, all of these things are made by super rich companies and super rich people that help my life. They make my life more enjoyable. They make it easier. Like, it just... How do they not understand this? How could they possibly not understand this? Oh, because they're stupid. They're really, really stupid. Acton and Combs' success may have increased the wealth owned by top 1%, but their product has created massive consumer value as well. Most of the wealthiest Americans are entrepreneurs who have fueled economic growth, which is clear in examining the Forbes 400 list. Wealth created this way is not the zero-sum struggle that Democrats imagine it is. That's the good news. The bad news is that the government itself generates wealth inequality in at least two ways that make us worse off. First, the government gives subsidies, regulatory preferences, and other crony capitalist benefits to wealthy insiders. In the recent Fat Leonard scandal, for example, Leonard Francis gained hundreds of millions of dollars of government contracts by cozying up to Navy officers and providing them with gifts, prostitutes, and other favors to get them to do his bidding. Socialists will decry scandals like this, for example, or any of the lucrative defense contractors that companies have with the federal government, like nails costing $300 per nail because of some stupid government rule. They'll decry that as capitalism's not working, capitalism's bad because of these things. That's not capitalism. Subsidies, regulatory preferences, all these inside deals, all this little conniving and skeeving, and that's not capitalism. Capitalism is an open and free market where everyone knows what everyone's doing and they can compete for things. Not insiders behind closed doors things. That's crony capitalism, which I completely agree with socialists is bad. We need to get that crap out of our economy and make it as pure capitalist as possible. That will generate the most amount of income for people, the most amount of benefits for companies, the most amount of products and services at the lowest prices for everyone. It really is that simple. That's why capitalism is the best system we have come up with yet. there hypothetically is a better system that we haven't discovered yet. That's like in the medieval era, the guild craft. Here, I'll leave a link because I don't know if you guys know this off the top of your head, but like medieval guild economy. Here, like for example, in the 1600s, there were mega corporations founded by government-directed programs, like the Dutch East India Trading Company. So they were companies, but they were directly like controlled by the government. That was inefficient in the grand scheme of things, which is why that system died out, and we have new systems, whatever. I'll leave a link to the Wikipedia article about that because it takes forever to go through. But like, I'm not saying capitalism is the best thing they could ever come up with, and we can't change it at all. There's no way anything can be better. I'm just saying that's the best thing we can come up with right now. It's better than socialism. It's better than guilds, the medieval guild or the oligarchy, kings, vassals, peasants kind of economy that, medieval states had. It's obviously better than those, but you can't criticize capitalism for crony capitalism things. No, you can criticize crony capitalism. Let's just get crony capitalism out of capitalism. The other way that government fuels wealth inequality is a deeper scandal. The expansion of social programs over the decades has undermined incentives for lower and middle-income families to save while reducing their ability to save because of higher taxes. Wow, didn't see that one coming. Holy fucking shit. These social programs that the government says is to help poor people actually hurts them and reduces their ability to save because they are taxed so much to fuel these programs. It's almost like taxation is theft, and we should stop taxing people so much, so that they can save better, buy more things, save up for cars, houses, college, whatever, instead of being burdened by all of these taxes that just go to freeloaders, to lazy people, to illegal immigrants. Remember illegal immigrants can't get health care. Oh, so you never heard of illegal immigrants getting fake social security cards? You never heard of social security fraud? All these people finding out, wow, this person stole my social security and get all these benefits. You act like it never happens, of course. And then with the Democratic debates, who wants to give free health care to illegal immigrants? And every single one of those traitorous motherfuckers raise their hand. Oh. Lazy people who don't want to work and just steal from working Americans. Government programs have displaced or crowded out wealth building by all Americans' families but the richest. Politicians complain loudly about wealth inequality, but their own policies are generating it. This issue receives too little policy attention, but is profoundly important and reveals the hypocrisy of the political left. Many Americans have saved little for retirement because Social Security discourages them from doing so, as does the heavy 12.4% wage tax that funds the program. Economist Martin Feldstein found that every dollar increased Social Security benefits reduced private savings by 50 cents. That's an amazing trade-off, by the way. So I always bring up this example because this is the one personal example is because I know the exact numbers. I don't know everyone else's exact income and exact taxes, but like, for example, I make less than the median income in my county. And all the taxes combined, Social Security, Medicaid, Medicare, state tax, all those taxes, the retirement, which is I can't not have my employer take out for healthcare and retirement, all that combined, it's 25% of my entire income. Why the fucking hell are you taxing people who make so little 25% of the entire wealth, the entire wage that they make? That means for 3 months of the entire year, all I am doing is working for the government. 3 months. Now, while I'm a libertarian, I still agree there should be some taxes, but it should be as little as possible because it's still theft. I still believe there should be a government that has military, police, whatever. So that requires a tiny bit of taxes to fund only the most necessary of programs. Not only programs, but to protect our rights. That's what the government's there for, is to protect our rights, not necessarily programs. I want the government to protect my rights. So I want them to give them as little money as possible just to do that and not this overloaded government we have. But that's getting off topic. But that's just what I'm talking about. The 12.4% wage tax that funds the program. Why are you taking away so much money from people who make so little? Social Security accounts for the larger share of retirement income from the non-rich than for the rich, so this Crowder effect increases wealth inequality. In the simulation model, Jagadish Gokhale, I think that's how you pronounce his name, and Lawrence Kotlikoff estimated Social Security raises the overall share of wealth by the top 1% of wealth totals about 80%. This occurs because the program leaves the non-rich with proportionally less to save, less reason to save, and a larger share of their old age resources in a non-equitable form. Now, all these things, all these studies I'm citing, they have links that you can read and read the study for yourself. Don't just take my word for it. But the thing is, this article is already pretty long, and if I stopped every single time I don't care. Stupid pop-up. If I stopped every single time to read the entire study, then this video would be an hour long. I have time for that. But I will leave the article for you so you can read all these studies and say, oh, I'm just not going to take his word for it. Let me read the study to see if it actually supports what the article is saying. That's higher level thinking. That's thinking for yourself. I'm not telling you what to think. I'm just showing you the article and it's like, here's my point of view. You want to read on it and see if it's right or wrong, leave a comment and see, if like, oh, you got this wrong, oh, you got this right. Cool. Open exchange of ideas. No censorship here, man. Study by Baris Kamek and Marcus Postcake. Man, these names are just ridiculous. European names. Built a model of the U.S. economy to estimate the cause of rising wealth inequality. They found that most of the rise of the top 1% share of the wealth in recent decades was caused by technology changes and wage dispersion. But the expansion of Social Security and Medicare caused about 1/4 of that increase. They concluded that the redistributive nature of transfer payments was instrumental in curbing wealth accumulation for income groups outside the top 10%, and consequently amplified wealth concentration in the U.S. More government benefits result in less private wealth, especially for the non-rich. It is not just Social Security and Medicare that displaces private saving, but also unemployment insurance, welfare, and other social spending. Some social programs have asset tests that deliberately discourage saving. So if you want to get in a social program to get free money because you're a lazy fuck, it discourages you from making a lot of money because like, oh, I make less. I make enough to be in your bracket to be able to apply for a social program. I'm not going to push myself and get a higher paying job because then I wouldn't have a social program. So I'm going to make less. I'm not going to go for the promotion. I'm not going to go for the higher paying job so I can get free stuff. That's how it discourages saving and wage increases in general. Total federal and state social spending as a share of the gross domestic product soared from 6.8% in 1970 to 14.3% in 2018. It's almost like taxes aren't the problem, but really spending is the problem. That increase in handouts occurred over the same period that wealth inequality appeared to have increased. Generations of Americans have grown up assuming that the government will take care of them when they are sick, unemployed, and retired. So they put too little money aside for further expenses. This is the infantilization of Americans. You should not look for the government to take care of you when you are sick, unemployed, and retired. You need to look for yourself. Your own savings that you do when you are not sick and employed and not retired. Your family, your community. That's what people depended on before the government became everyone's nanny. That's the way it should be. You rely on yourself. You rely on the connections and the hard work that you did when you were younger and not sick. And you will be okay later down the road. This destruction of the community, people don't have communities to rely upon. They don't even try to build their own community. They don't try to build connections. They don't talk to people. They don't have friends to help them out. They just depend on the government. Well, why should I? They're thinking to themselves, why should I bother having my own personal social net that if I fall in hard times, friends will be able to help me out? That's the way it used to. You know, the stereotypes of people bringing dinner over to their neighbor when they're sick, or can I borrow, a cup of milk for cooking? That's a stereotype, but it did happen. Things like that did happen. But now that doesn't happen anymore. People don't talk to each other. They don't know their neighbors. They have no personal community. They just rely on the government. Oh, I'm not going to get milk from my neighbor. I'm just going to get free food stamps and then go to the store and then get free milk because someone else is working their ass off to fund that food stamp. Okay, we're almost done here. Let's see. Cross-country studies support these conclusions. A 2015 study by Pierman Fessler and Martin Schurz examined European data and found that the inequality of wealth is higher in countries with a relatively more developed welfare state. Given an increase in welfare state expenditure, wealth inequality measured by standard relative inequality measures such as the Gini coefficient will increase. A study by Credit Suisse found that strong social security programs, good public pensions, free or higher education, or generous student loans unemployment, and health insurance can greatly reduce the need for personal financial assets. This is one explanation for the high level of wealth inequality we identify in Denmark, Norway, and Sweden. Wait, but I thought these countries were awesome. I thought they didn't have a lot of wealth inequality. I thought they just helped their people out. The government just gave money out, and people just didn't have to work that hard, and then everyone makes relatively the same amount because everyone's equal, because that's what happens in socialist countries. But it's not. They have high level of wealth inequality. What a surprise. It's not like libertarians and small government people have been calling that out for literally decades. The top groups continue to accumulate for business and investment purposes, while the middle and lower classes have a less pressing need for personal saving. This is why it's absurd for politicians such as Sanders and Warren to decry wealth inequality and turn around and demand European-style expansions in our social programs that increase wealth inequality. It's amazing. This is just like the beginning of the article. They decry wealth equality and then turn around and they want, we want these programs. Yeah, but we've seen how these programs work in Norway, Sweden, and Denmark. They increase the problem that you say you want to try to get rid of. No one ever says that to their face because they always avoid debates with people. They always avoid confrontation or debating people from the other side. And they go on believing this deluded bullshit. That's a problem with echo chambers. All these liberals who believe that social programs will reduce wealth inequality, no one ever challenges them on these ideas. And when they do, they run away. People never have debates in person where you have to stand and defend your arguments. They do it on the internet, and they just don't comment. They just, oh, well, I can't refute those points. I'll just won't comment. They won't think, wow, he made points that I can't refute. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I should look into this. No, they're like, oh, he's just being a racist. He doesn't care about the poor. He's just being a xenophobic, whatever ism they want to call him, and they just walk away from it, still believing the bullshit that they can't defend in a public forum. That is great delusion. That is the problem of echo chambers. The solution is a transition to saving-based social programs. Numerous countries have social security systems based on private savings account. Chile has unemployment insurance savings account. Martin Feldstein proposed a saving-based approach to Medicare. The assets in such savings would be inheritable, unlike the benefits from current U.S. social programs. To conclude, Sanders and Warren are right to criticize crony capitalism as a cause of wealth inequality, but the big government approach to social policy will have the opposite effect on wealth equality than what they believe. So, I'm going to summarize this, going to finish this up. I think I said everything I could say on this article. I mean, it's just the hypocrisy of politicians. Not only the hypocrisy, but just the zero self-awareness. It's like with gun control. That's another example I can bring up. Left-wing politicians constantly decry mass shootings that 99.9% of the time happen in gun-free zones, and they're like, what's your solution? Well, we want more gun-free zones. We want to take away guns, less guns, more gun-free zones, ban guns here, no guns there, blah, blah, blah. But that's what causes mass shootings. That's what allows the death toll to be so high, because no one has guns to defend themselves with. Mass shooters go for soft targets on purpose. When you've ever heard of a mass shooting at a police department or like an army base? Now, to be fair, that one in Nadel Hassan did do that one mass shooting in a military base in 2009. So a whole decade ago that happened. When have you heard that since then? When have you heard a mass shooting at a gun show or a gun store? Well, they know there's lots of guns and people know how to use them. When has this ever happened? Except from 2009, never. Never, ever. That's 99.9%. Whatever military base he shot up in Texas, that's the 0.1% of the time it does happen. But for the other 99.9% of mass shootings happen in gun-free zones. Okay, well, what's the liberals' solution? Oh, make more gun-free zones. Make more people helpless. So the mass shooting tally will go up. It's just like, you obviously don't care about this problem because you benefit from it. They're part of the 1% they're railing against. That's how stupid the American public is that these politicians can be stealing money from you, making your life a living fucking hell, and then turn around and say, we're going to fund these programs which make your life a living hell, and they're like, yep, I want it. Not even realizing that they're cheering for their own demise. People can absolutely vote against their own interests. That happens all the time. With mostly the two main political parties, but mostly the Democrats, because of all these strong social programs, or just everything in general. I mean, we could just go on and on and on and on, but this is specifically about how strong social programs hurt the very people who are voting for them.